And we are live with our 88th episode of Absolute AppSec. I am Ken Johnson at CK Tricky on Twitter, joined by my co-host Seth Law at Seth Law on Twitter. Seth, say hi.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. Today, we are joined by Kevin Johnson. I almost said Ken Johnson just because, we always have this weird, thing in the industry where Ken and Kevin, I don't know, whatever, like people were mistaking Ken for Kevin at one point, whatever, right?
And vice versa.
And we have Kevin Johnson. Yes, they are different people, apparently, right? I have proof. I see both of you. But then again, it could just be doppelgangers or whatever. Okay. So we're joined by Kevin today. We'll get into his background here in a little bit. As far as news goes, I hope everyone is safe and happy during this quarantine time, I guess. I don't know what else we're supposed to call it. I know we typically announce trainings and other things. Kevin and Ken and I were talking about this just before the podcast went live, the fact that everything in person is canceled right now, and we don't know what's going to happen for the next 3 to 6 months. So join us online, I guess, is realistically what it's going to boil down to, right? So I typically talk about like the black hat training and other stuff that's going on, but we'll just kind of leave that for now because we don't know, right? We don't know what's going to happen with it. Outside of that, the big news this week, or the big news that hit yesterday, it looks like NPM's being subsumed by Ken and his company. Ken, do you have any insight on that? Like, I'm gonna,
Yes, I put together this deal over the course of many months.
Well, we did have both Adam and Ron on the podcast, so I figured it was some like back channel dealings that you would
secure ideas is next.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, no problem.
If GitHub is interested, right?
Yeah. I've long said if you write the right check, I'm willing to sign that contract.
At least you're honest about it. Some people are like, yeah, exactly. Like there's a price. There's a price. I think it's really cool because so to be clear, I didn't know about this at all until yesterday, but which was like, because I immediately sent Ron and Adam a message like, welcome to the team, I guess. I don't know what to say, but that's so weird. But what's funny is we, like you and I just commented on this whole, what was it? White Sources, AppSec predictions. And in there, you and I were like, yeah, well, NPM security team has built this metrics API to give you a risk rating of like the packages that you install for your supply chain. And then GitHub goes and buys them out. So I'm like, and obviously, we're doing a lot of stuff around the supply chain. So I just thought that was really interesting. I was like, whoa, that was amazing. That's so cool. But yeah, can't claim credit on that one, unfortunately.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, it's still pretty big news. I mean, I don't know if we've quite intimated what it is. So NPM got acquired by GitHub. So Adam and Ron, I guess, congratulations. Ken, congratulations. I don't know, right? Like, we'll see how that works into the supply chain stuff over there that GitHub's giving to us, because that's all pretty interesting from a security perspective. Or if you're just going to shelfware it, right? Like it's competing. Is that what it is? No, I doubt it.
Yeah, I don't think that's typically how it goes. So.
It doesn't seem to be your company's MO. So,
no.
Outside of that, I know there's a bunch of the B-Sides events that are all starting to run virtual coming up this next weekend. So B-Side Salt Lake City is not this weekend, but next weekend. Wait, no, it is this weekend. So on Saturdays or Friday, Saturday, they're running virtual. There's a whole bunch of virtual events going on. So find people on Twitter if you're feeling a little isolated, or on Slack and ask and see what's actually going on. I think there's going to be a lot of good content coming out over the next couple of months because everybody is switching to that format. So if you're involved in any of those, hit record and share, because I think it's going to be kind of a renaissance or a nice little bump for the content that's available to us all. So outside of that, Ken, I don't really have anything else. I mean, you were at Disneyland apparently all week, so I don't know if you even paid attention to anything. So
I'll get to that in a sec. I do want to mention because I actually have tips for people when Disneyland opens back up. But anyways, I did want to mention to people that the they should look at because I don't know if we've talked about this, about the OWASP.org shift, not to like, even further with GitHub, promote, but it's been moved to GitHub Pages. So it's really interesting because like the old way that the OWASP site worked was like using a media wiki, or a wiki of some kind. I can't remember.
Media wiki.
Yeah.
Media wiki.
Yeah.
And
I don't wait.
Oh, you dealt with that?
Well, I'm a chapter lead and a project lead, and have been for years.
So you had to edit that each time. Yeah. No, well, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, because if you're a project leader, you do have to modify on that wiki, which is a pain, and the permissions are weird, and it's this whole. So I do like the fact that now the way it works is that each subsite, so like / a path, now goes to a repo that's under the OWASP GitHub org, and the permissions are scoped to just that repo. So that's pretty cool. Like it's an easier permissioning system. Yeah, I just like. But anyways, the way it looks and the way the way it's updated, I think much easier. So
it is. There were a number of problems with the move. If you go look at the leaders Slack channel or mail list, there was lots of arguments. But the underlying system is awesome.
Go figure.
Yeah, never, right? An open source project not have arguments, never. I will say, and I'm not biased toward GitHub like you are. The GitHub model is awesome for this type of thing. There are ways that was implemented badly, well, good, awesome, whatever. There's always going to be an issue. I think this model works so much better than the cluster that was MediaWiki, but that's so much with so many legacy apps, right? You have things we did because that was the only way to do it at that time, and then we built other things to do something else, and they don't match, and so everybody has to, it's that way except for that page.
Yes.
So very happy with the new system.
Yeah, like it was definitely a difficult move. Like I had fielded some questions regarding this during the transition, and like I can say that there were things about the platform GitHub like I didn't even, and pages specifically, that I didn't even know like were available to you. So that's really cool, and it looks much better, and so hopefully it's much easier for everybody to use. But I think it's just super cool. But Disneyland. So since Kevin Johnson, who we'll introduce here in a second, we're going to introduce him in a second. So he's a Star Wars fan. That's to say the least.
Is he? I hadn't heard that.
Kevin has a Stormtrooper helmet, but Kevin has a Stormtrooper full on the suit. So.
Well, it doesn't stop at the
same. That's brag.
I also have a TIE pilot, a Darth Vader. I can go on with a list. I think I have 9 costumes right now.
Oh my God! Not to flex his Star Wars muscles, but that's sort of
the only muscles I have.
That's such a cool thing to have all those like costumes, and like you've gone to, I believe, children's hospitals and surprise them in those outfits, which is super cool.
Yeah, when Chewbacca walks around the corner at 7'5", kids and doctors and nurses grin or scream, depending.
Or scream. Well, speaking of, Chewbacca did come up and grab my wife at Disneyland on the shoulder, and she turned around and she wasn't expecting to see Chewbacca. I hope people took video of it. It was amazing. She flipped out. She lost it. She was like, this is crazy. It was good. It was fun. But anyways, what I was going to say is the important stuff. So if you're going to do once Disneyland opens back up and all this stuff has died down, if you're going to do Rise of the Resistance, do not do what I did and think that you can like just show up to Disneyland and be able to ride Rise of the Resistance. There are currently boarding groups, as I'm sure it's going to be the same when it opens back up because there's such high demand for the ride. So with those boarding groups, what you need to do is get to the park. Like if the park opens at 8, it actually opens at 7:15, meaning they'll start accepting tickets and you can get inside the park at 7:15. So show up, like if it opens at 8, show up at like 6:45 or 7, get in line. as soon as you get through the gates, if it's the day that the magic hour, which is like they open the park an hour earlier for the people that are staying in the resorts, then the app will allow you to join the boarding group. If it's not magic hour, you're basically going to get through the gates, scan your tickets, and then on the app, the Disneyland app, you're going to sit there and wait until right when the park officially opens at 8 a.m. and like hit. It's like OWASP or ShmooCon tickets. You basically just have to click as fast.
There you go.
as
You
possible.
just related it to like our like industry. Oh, it's like ShmooCon. Oh, everybody's like, oh crap, I'm not going to get in.
To relate it
Yeah.
to relate it even further, don't get on their wireless when you do it.
There you go.
No,
Oh,
exactly. There you go. Yes. And like that's basically all you need to do, because as long as you get honestly supposedly below boarding groups 82 and 82 and below, you're definitely fine to get into the ride that day. If you're boarding group 130, it's risky. Can happen. So just be as quick as you can when you use the app, and the park closes at 8. And what we did is we actually had multiple phones all trying to like get in the queue at the same time. So anyways, that's a little bit of a tip there. The other thing is we did the custom lightsaber, and that is a super cool experience, and I highly recommend it. I won't spoil it for anybody, but it's like $200 to do the custom lightsaber, so it's not cheap, but my son's got one. It's got an actual legit kyber crystal in it, right? Well, as legit as it can be. Right?
It's
Genuine GoPro.
Genuine. They flew it in today or where?
And inside, exactly. They do runs to the kyber system. So they have different color kyber crystals, and so whatever color you put into your lightsaber is whatever color it's going to be. So like he brought home a red, green, and blue. So if you get a custom lightsaber, you can switch out those kyber crystals and choose a different color, so don't sweat. It's like $15 per kyber crystal. So don't sweat it too much if you do it and you have to choose a color, you can change it out later. There's other things, but those are the two main things I wanted to just put out there, since we could all use some distraction from this nonsense that's going on. So.
Well, okay. So the disappointing thing, at least in my house, is we were planning on heading down in like 2 weeks, right? It was for over spring break. We're like, oh, we're already starting to like book out flights and everything, and now I'm like, never mind, back that, right? Like we're not driving to California or whatever to go sit at the Spirit Halloween, right, Kevin? That is Disneyland right now, but yeah, I don't know.
So I mean, it closed down the day after I left, didn't it? It literally closed the day after.
That says something.
Yeah, it did. You closed it down. There you go. Good job.
There you go. Sure. Yeah.
Somebody better come in, so we might as well just shut down.
Boom.
Yeah.
It's over.
We're done.
Dropping the mic. Yeah. No, it's a shame, because that new I highly recommend that Galaxy's Edge part of the park. It's seriously awesome. And since you live in Florida, Kevin, like I'm sure it's as soon as it opens back up, probably going to be headed that way when you get a chance.
I have an annual pass. We go very often. Nice. I have not yet ridden Rise of the Resistance. Just haven't done it yet. We tend to not do the big rides right after they open.
Smart.
Mainly because it's accessible to us, right? Like
right.
We're 2.5 hours away. I can leave my house and be in the park in 2.5 hours. And there are many days when it was open that we would, what are we doing for dinner tonight? Disney. No, my wife and I are addicts. I'll admit.
Yeah, if you want to spend $300 on some stale chicken nuggets, that is your place to go. It is.
It's definitely. Except we don't go get spare chicken nuggets. What we end up is we go to Epcot, and then we go to the Worlds. Nice. So it's like, what country would you like to eat dinner in tonight? So.
Yeah, no, it's they do have good meal options. It's just
expensive.
They also have for sure. But so for the Rise of the Resistance, you're smart to stay away, but once it does die down, it's like it's a super cool ride. I think like any Star Wars fan will love it. So anyways, we should probably introduce you. We're like
yeah.
All right. So Kevin Johnson is the CEO at Secure Ideas. Kevin, I don't like. So I'm just going to share. So first of all, if you don't know Kevin, you should, because he's like he runs. So he did OWASP Samurai, WTF. He's a chapter lead. He's spoken at like every OWASP and Black Hat and DEF CON conference, I swear, like that's ever been put on. Like he's a really well-known speaker, tool producer. What's really interesting, I want to put this out there, Kevin, is, and you probably don't know this, I'm not sure if I ever told you, but during my first initial visits to ShmooCon, when I was like completely green to this industry, I watched you speak, and you're like InfoSec rock star to me.
Oh, no.
So,
oh, man.
I know everybody hates that term, but like, hey, I'm just going to call it like I saw it. That's what you were in my eyes. But I saw you in the early days at ShmooCon, early days of ShmooCon. You were still a stands instructor back then. I mean, like, in terms of your background, I feel like you've done it all. You've spoken everywhere. Like, yeah. So my introduction's not going to be, as well. And it's funny too, because everybody kept like, this is the other thing, the last thing I mentioned about you is that people were like, for a while on Twitter, my handle was Ken, not Kevin Johnson, because people kept confused. They get so excited. They're like, oh, Ken Johnson's gonna be on this call. Oh, Ken. And they thought I was you. And they're like, oh, that's Kevin. And I'm like,
not that guy.
Yeah, not that guy. So I'm like, I'm the disappointing, like.
No. They were better off having you on the call. I see. It's funny because I say the opposite, right? Like, one, I agree with you. I hate the term InfoSec rockstar. I find people who consider themselves InfoSec rockstars to be jackholes. I don't know how explicit we're allowed to get. So just to add any.
We're allowed to get explicit on this one.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I know so little, and I look at other people, and in all seriousness, let's make this, mutual adoration society. I follow you on Twitter. I watch your talks. I've learned so much from you that I find it hilarious that you would think the opposite.
No, I learned. It's funny because I learned from you. So,
yeah, but you know what I mean? Like I think that, and this is something I've always said to people who are like getting started and trying to get into the field, is that so many of us know so little, but we just happen to know that one thing you don't know, right? Like I'm not a list person. I've never been like, oh man, here's my 10 things I need to do or whatever. I hate that. I'm awful on Kanban boards. Like whatever.
Yeah.
But when I decided to get into security, I did that. I actually came up with a list of the 20 things or whatever the number was of, I want to do that. I want to be that. For me, that was Mike Poor. I wanted to be Mike Poor. And I sat down and I wrote down a list of like 20 things, and I learned one of them. And I realized I now had a list of 37 things that I needed to know. And I learned another one, and I had a list of 77 things or whatever the number is. And my list currently is 47 trillion items. I've had this argument with people. Argument's the wrong word, but that so many of us have. People say we have imposter syndrome, right? We're so worried that people are going to realize we really don't know anything, and then we're standing on the shoulders of giants, and that's why we're where we're at. And I don't think it's actually imposter syndrome. I think it's partially imposter syndrome, but I also believe that it's partially as you learn stuff, right? As I have learned things, as you two have learned things, we start to realize the sheer amount of stuff we don't know, and how that amount of stuff so outweighs the stuff we actually like. I feel to know less now than I did 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
I'm an old fart, right? I've been doing IT since 91 professionally. I know less now, and it's not that I have forgotten stuff, but it's that every time I learn one thing, I find out the 5 things I didn't even know I needed to know.
Yeah.
Well, I always try to tell people, like, most of what I do is not like, hey, I know that right off the bat. It's, hey, let me check that out, and knowing how to Google and find the answer, right? Like, if anything, that's like paid off from a career perspective, because I like on every single call that I'm on where they're asking me like architecture questions about some nuance of like this application framework, and I'm like, sorry guys, you got to give me a couple hours, and then I can tell you what my opinion is, because I don't know.
Yeah, but I will say that your opinion is helped, and the reason it's good is because while you don't necessarily know the nuance of that architecture, you do have this experience that you're pulling from, and that you can, like I know that when I toasted that production server at 4 p.m. on deployment day, this is what I had to do to fix that, and this is why that was a bad plan. And now when I look at something 10 years, 20 years later, I can relate it to that. You can relate it to those things. Yep. And it's that combination of knowing where to look, knowing how to look, and how to relate it to things that you've either done or been involved in, or that's the strength, I believe. And it's why I'm so against the let me go to a college course and pass the certification and I'm an expert now. You know what I mean? So
well, yeah, there's experience. Like I always tell people, like you want to learn this, go get your hands dirty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's
break something legally.
Yeah. Break something. Yeah. Stand it up, break it, and then try and fix that, right? Because you're going to learn more there than you are in an 8-week course where it's all just hand fed to you on, this is how you run Nmap or whatever, right?
Do step 1, do step 2, do step 3. Yeah. And it's so cheap now. I mean, Amazon, Azure, Google Cloud, they all have free tiers. GitHub has amazing things they offer without having to pay for it. There isn't the cost bar to entry that there used to be, right? There's other cost bars to entry I can rant about, but I don't need to go buy a Xeon server system with 14 kilobytes of RAM and for $15,000.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not. Do you remember Computer Shopper? I don't know how old you guys are. I know how old I am. Right. And
Seth's pretty damn old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which window are you flipping?
We're really worried about him for COVID.
Hey, look, I turned 47 a few weeks ago, and I'm feeling every bit of that 47.
Just stay in your house for the next couple of weeks. You'll be fine.
Okay, no problem.
Social distancing, Kevin. Social distancing.
Look, I've been practicing social distancing since I was a kid.
Yeah, I thought it was cool.
I tell everybody, I'm such a nerd. The guy who used to take my lunch money still does. But he makes a damn good Subway sandwich.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Ooh, burn.
So,
not that there's anything wrong with making sandwiches.
No. Hey, look, I worked at Subway.
Yeah. Did you really?
Yeah.
I find that's the best place to have a clinically depressed person make a sandwich for you. Fantastic.
I resemble that. I actually worked at a bunch of fast food restaurants. I worked at McDonald's and got recruited to work for Burger King. And the reason I got recruited, this is okay. So I was hacking shit always. I have an identical twin brother, and we would work at McDonald's together, and they would put both of us in you know how McDonald's has the 2 drive-through windows?
Yes.
So that way, if we were slow, hey man, I'm the only one in here. So you never saw both of us at the same time. We would actually coordinate leaning out the window to hand stuff to people so that it looked like one person was working the drive-through window. And the owner of the Burger King across the intersection would come through French fries, because we all know McDonald's French fries are better. Yeah. And so she would come through, and one day I happened to be the second window guy, and she said, "Hey, would you be interested in coming over. I'll pay you $0.25 an hour more, which was massive. And, like done, right? Yes. Turned in my 2-week notice, which at fast food is like weird. And I think I was at the Burger King a month when she came in one day pissed because I was still working at McDonald's. And she came into the store yelling for her son, who was the store manager, like, Emmy, we need to fire Kevin. And I walked out of the drive-thru window like, why are you firing me? And she's like, how did you get over here so quick? I'm like, I've been here all morning. What are you? Oh, my brother still works at McDonald's.
Did your brother get recruited over?
No, they only had one window. It didn't work. But so, yeah.
He couldn't hack it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Burger King was much harder.
Yeah. We're the real deal over here at BK.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I
haven't thought about that in a while.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Well, that's a heck of that. Since we're there, let's talk about your origin story. How did you get? Because you've been like I said, you've been doing this. What's that?
You've just always been in there. Yeah. I've always been here. Don't worry about it.
I mean, honestly, like before I was even a pup in this industry, you had already been doing it for a bit.
Everybody flip them off. Oh, damn.
Yeah. So your origin story, I don't think I've ever heard it. I don't actually think I've ever heard of it.
Spider. And definitely a radioactive spider.
Gotcha.
Basically, I graduated high school barely.
Same.
Barely. And I honestly think they graduated me just to get rid of me. But I was thinking about going to college. Like, back then, I'm assuming it's the same now, but back then the idea was if you wanted a real job, you left high school and went to college and you got a degree and you got a real job. And so I was going to go, I come from a pretty poor background. The easiest way to say it is I know what government cheese tastes like. And so I was going to community college. I signed up to go to community college. And right before school started, I lived in South Florida, just north of where IBM's, Boca headquarters was. And so I had a neighbor who worked for IBM, and he left IBM and started a company. And he needed somebody who knew bulletin board systems to talk about being old, which I knew. I ran my own bulletin board system. And there you go. And new development and new networking. And I met those things and cheap. We needed somebody cheap. And so he asked me if I was interested in a job. And I said, yeah. And so I set up their BBS, started doing some development with them part-time. And then they came to me and said, hey, we need you full-time. So we need you to, I was like 2 weeks into college. I actually took a bowling course and English course and
a bowling course.
I had to do a PE credit, and I'm not a PE body, and so we did bowling. And like 2 weeks into college, I dropped out to go full time at this company. And the idea was that if I went full time in 6 months, they would give me a full ride. Just they would pay all my schooling, but they needed me to finish this contract that they were working on. Within 6 months, they were out of business, and I never went back. I couldn't afford to go back, and I didn't drop out right. So instead of dropping out, I just stopped going. And so all of my teachers gave me an incomplete except for one. And that incomplete became an F. The problem was my bowling instructor wouldn't fail anybody. So he gave me a D. So my GPA was low enough. I actually had a GPA that I couldn't qualify for financial aid or scholarships or anything else that when I tried to go back. So I've actually never gone back, which is funny because when I worked at Sands Institute, I actually wrote part of their master's curriculum, and I've taught at major universities without a college, barely with a high school diploma. But so I was doing IT, and I was writing code, I was running systems, and I did that for a large number of years, too damn many. And right around 2002, 2001, 2002, I took a SANS course. And I was taking a course from Mike Poor. I was interested in security. I mean, let's be blunt, right? When I was a teenager, I was on the pirate boards, and I'll acknowledge that hypothetically, theoretically, and
it's okay because bug bounties did not exist.
Bug bounties
No.
not exist.
People,
I don't know.
At that point.
I
don't know if that makes it okay, but it does. It's not like there was an option and then you did that. Like there was no.
Well, I mean,
that's why I say to defend myself.
Yeah,
how else were you supposed to find the other BBSs? War dialing was the only option.
Exactly.
I'm just saying, war dialing was the only option.
No comments. We won't.
There's justifications. Don't judge us.
Judge us. It's okay. I'm a horrible person. And I wanted to get into security. I wanted to get out of IT into security in per se. And I was working for Blue Cross of Florida, and they sent me to a SANS course. And I met Mike Poor. At that point, I was already the project lead for Base, the web interface for Snort. We had forked ACID. That sounds awful. And I was taking an intrusion detection class from Mike, and he actually taught Base in the course. So the first day of the course, he found out I was that guy because of the guy I was there with. And he had me teach that section. And I then went to dinner with him with some students. And I actually said to Mike, he's like, hey, what do you want to do? What do you want? What do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be you. I mean, not with the red beard and everything, but I want to be you. I want to do what you do. And he said, okay, here's what you do. And he gave me some ideas of things to do. And then, and this is, I think, critical, and it's something that we all should be doing. He followed up with me. Like, he reached back out after I left the course and said, hey, you good? You doing what you need? How can I help? And he offered his time, right? And I started learning some stuff. I started poking and prodding, and then I got hired by Mike Poor. I started working for InGuardians, and that was my first full-time security job. And I worked for InGuardians for, almost 3.5 years. Nice. I was a consultant for them, and then I got tired of travel. I was traveling about 65% of my time.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Which is a lot. Now, let's be clear. Last year, I did 85% at Radius, so I'm not real good at that fixing problems thing. But I got really.
It'll be less this year.
It already is. And, yes, and but I tried to figure out where to go next. I got a job at Bank of America, and I was supposed to build a pen test team for their audit department.
Okay.
And I went to Mike and I said, hey, I've got this opportunity. It's going to be great. And he understood. We had been talking about the fact that travel was too much for me. And so I said, how much notice do you need? Right? Because we can talk about 2 weeks notice, but that, right?
That's like the kind of, that's if you're not. It's different when you're like close and it's a small business and stuff like that. There's definitely, it's not like some mega corp where you're like, well, I'm giving my 2 weeks because it's required.
Yeah. And he said, well, if you could do stuff on the side to help us out in the transition, 2 weeks actually works. And then you'll and so I went to my soon to be new boss, and it turned out he negotiated with HR and got me an exception.
Nice.
To do it. And there were some rules that I couldn't do. And so that's why we always say that Security was accidentally started, because there wasn't a plan to be a company. There was a plan to do some stuff to help Mike and Jay and everybody. And that was in August. It'll be 10 years ago.
Wow.
We now have 19 employees. My wife and I and Jason Gillum own the company. And I am 3 years from my end date. End date sounds melodramatic. My plan is to give the company to the employees and then stop being the boss. I'm still going to work. I'm still going to consult and teach, because we teach classes all over the place. We consult. I believe I'm passionate, I guess is the right word, about training and giving people the ability to learn. Because like I said, Mike built me up. And I hope that I build other people up. And I believe that is, not to be get mushy and gushy and whatever, but I believe it is morally imperative that we help others. If we do not teach other people how to do things, we're just dicks. And I don't want to be a dick, right? My dad's name was Richard. So, and there's a reason I changed my name when I turned 18. But that is my passion. And I believe that Secure Ideas, if I may be, pimping out the company, every single person that works with me, and I say with me on purpose, because there's no way I could do any of this without the people that work with me. Every other one of us have the same passion. Is that our job? Every single person we work with, every single thing. That's why we do so much free stuff. That's why we we push out. We're trying to push out as much stuff as possible to give people that entry point.
Yeah, it's hard to when you have to balance that with the business. Like
I got to pay payroll in 2 weeks.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a hard thing to balance. Like I think Seth and I probably understand that more than most people would. So we've actually been there. That's definitely a hard thing. It's possible, but it's just not. It's not by any stretch easy whatsoever.
Well, and it's funny. Like people will complain to me. We rolled out these 2-hour sessions, and we charged $25 for them. And that's our thought was $25 is within people's reach, and it's enough that if we get enough people into the classes, we can make money. And people are pirating them, and like this one guy paid the $25 to get access to a course. He's then publishing them on Facebook, and the idiot tagged me in the post, right? Like, hey, here's training from Kevin Johnson, and you get it for free instead of paying him $25. And I'm like, there's no way. Like, there's no way this jackhole just tagged me in pirating my $25 materials. And the worst part is, let's be blunt, we give it away to tons of people. Like, if you're a veteran, active duty military, first responder, those classes are free. And the more expensive classes that we actually have a cost to deliver, we discount hugely. I've had tons of people just reach out and say, hey, I can't afford this. Can you help me? Yes, here you go. There's a coupon. It's free. Take the class. Because I'm where I am now because other people helped me. I want to help people. I want to make money. I'm a greedy capitalist. I joke and say that my business goal is to be protested by the Occupy movement. Right? I want to be so wealthy. There's pup tents protesting me in the cul-de-sac. We're not there, right? But I also want to help people out. And so, like, this guy tagged me on Facebook, and I responded to them. I posted a comment like, hey, these are $25, and if you really can't afford them, let me know. And I got threatening messages back, like, how dare you comment? Like, you tagged me. Like,
in my pirated software.
I didn't comment, hey, asshole, why did you share this? I commented, hey, it's probably inappropriate to share this, and if you need help, I'll help you. And I got
you could have just reported it too.
I could have. I totally could have. And it's like, damn it. You can't win.
You can't win. Let me tell you, I've learned that.
Online,
dealing with the bigger internet, man, you can't win. So I just don't care anymore. Like, hate me, love me, fuck off. Either way,
exactly.
Whatever.
I here's how I'll care. Send me a check. If you sign a contract and you become an official client, I will care if you hate me. At that point, I care. Up to that point, I'm going to do what I do. I'm going to try to help people out. If you don't like what I do to help you out, fuck you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, because it's not like normal people. Here's the thing to understand about for those who are in the uninitiated to the negative aspects of the internet.
If these are not published a YouTube video.
Yes. If you've never done anything public, let me explain this to you. The majority of the normal people, the people that you would commune with, that you would dialogue with, that you would, we consider colleagues, they're not the ones that are typically coming with the negative voices. It's the people that have true like issues and like you probably wouldn't want to hang out with. So just don't sweat it. That's basically
Yeah.
Now, if everyone thinks you're a jerk, maybe look in the mirror. But
that's different.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks I'm a jackhole. Please let me know, and I will try not to be a jackhole.
Wait, but post up his Twitter account one more time. Let's see.
Yeah. We have a jackhole now. That is hashtag jackhole. So.
Yeah, but I think it's really so because like I agree with to Marcus Carey. I feel like he's done a lot publicly to try and facilitate the idea of facilitate mentorship, to facilitate paying it forward and giving it back. And he comes from a similar situation as yourself, myself. Like I grew up a poor kid as well. Definitely weren't many opportunities. But yeah, like, you network. And this is actually something I've told a few people that come to me for mentorship. I'm like, here's the fundamental things like book knowledge you need, but also you need to network. Like you absolutely have to network. Cause that's going to be
which is hard.
That's going to be your in,
which is hard because so many of us, I know me, I am probably the shyest person you'll ever meet. I don't like meeting new people. I don't like traveling. I am petrified of public speaking. I don't vomit anymore before speaking, which is good. But it hasn't been that long that I wasn't vomiting before talking. And, but that networking is so critical. It is absolutely a who that can help you and support you. And that's why I say is like where I am now and I'm not rich. I don't, every single bit of money I make goes back into the company, practically. And, but my wife and I aren't living paycheck to paycheck. We aren't concerned about whether or not we're losing the house and, thank God. But we're in a good position that way. And that's where I want to be. I have 2 daughters that live with me, and, I just found out I have a son that was put up for adoption without me knowing 23 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
Like nuts, which is awesome. Don't get me wrong. But I have 2 daughters that I'm trying to raise that they're comfortable, that they don't worry. But it is only because I've known so many other people and been able to work with other people, that have supported me, right? Like Ken, Ken is one of the reasons I'm successful, right? And when we roll out new products, when we roll out new free offering, like the fundamentals stuff that we announced last week, it's only because of people sharing and helping us promote that stuff that we are able to do it.
I appreciate it. I will take all the credit that you will give. No, but in all seriousness, it's kind of funny because like I said, I think we've all drawn upon each other's work too. That's the other thing that's interesting. Like being around this long is you end up like, because we talked about before, like where we all end up hiring each other, or like working for each other or whatever, working with each other, vendoring, whatever, like.
Vendoring, I like that.
Vendoring, yeah. Like
I vendor quite often.
Yeah. Yes. Vendoring. I don't know. I think that's my word for describing when you go to a company and then you use somebody as a vendor. So that's what I'm calling it.
No, I like that. I like that word. I always use the word gruntled. Like all of my employees are
gruntled.
Yeah.
They're gruntled.
At least I hope they are.
They're not disgruntled. So like, but we all draw upon each other's work too, which is super interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, like, it's that whole, right? Like, what is it? 6 degrees of separation. Really, in the InfoSec community, it's like 2, right?
Well,
it's typically, if you don't know them, you know someone that does know them, right?
We're all
yeah, exactly. Basically, we are. But like, I don't know, like Kevin, what you're saying too, like, us on this, like the podcast here, the only reason, like we started to talk to people like you, like that, where we were like, again, 2 degrees of separation that we kind of knew, that we've seen around, that we wanted to get to know better. But the initial, I don't know, 10, 20 episodes, Ken, we're all like friends, right? Yeah. And that's what it was. It was just like, hey, we're going to get together and talk about something that's interesting to us and hopefully help others actually understand what it is to be in the community. And that's the whole reason we do it, right? Like there's no, I mean, what kind of marketing we get out of it, whatever, right? It's more that we get to talk about cool stuff and help others out. So yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
No, I mean, I agree with that. I think that's why we initially started, but plus also we just needed a place to vent.
Yeah.
For people that are like also
AppSec
not
support.
like,
yeah. Venting is
that
critical.
way you don't lose your mind with the hysteria of things that go on.
Well, so. and I felt like you were saying, the wider internet, being online and kind of being out there. I mean, Kevin, like being introverted, because I think everybody in this, or a large majority of the people that are in our industry, are introverts.
Yes.
And like, I don't know about you guys, but InfoSec Twitter is just a dumpster fire most of the time, right? Or like the wider InfoSec. And like we do a really good job of tearing each other down, right? And Kevin, I know you're friends with Grifter as well. I think you are, right?
Yeah, I know Grifter. I
Yeah.
always hesitate to say I'm friends with people that I see once a year because I feel like I'm assuming they like me. You know what I mean? Like Grifter has never said, Kevin, you and I are friends. So I know him.
Next time I see him at DC 801 or whatever, I'll say he has to come over and tell you he's
workplace proximity associates.
He's not like I'm close, 6 feet.
6 feet. Yeah, exactly.
I'm starting to wear hoops.
Yeah, there you go. Now my thoughts completely gone. Thanks, man. No, he was talking about it. Oh, no. Okay, so he was talking about it in relationship, like on Twitter, about breaches, right? Yeah. And about how we are so judgmental of people that get breached. Just like we're complete assholes about it. Let's be honest, right? Online, we're like, Target, ha ha ha. We didn't do that, right? Like our first reaction is, wait, are we vulnerable? And then when we're not, we're like, oh, you screwed up so bad, right? Like, I'm like, instead of being like, wow, dude, that sucks. Let me help you out.
Yeah. Look at when.
They'll say, let me help you out for a fee.
Yeah. There you go. Vendor me in there, Ken.
Vendoring. Sorry, Kevin.
No, it's okay. Look where we got hit, right? We were using an LMS. The LMS had a problem. And 2 people escalated privileges on it. And we tried to be as transparent as possible. Look, I can sit here and talk to you about the fact that they got no real data, and we had no control over the LMS, which is different now. But we had to take responsibility for that. And we got a whole bunch of people who are like, man, it was great you said that. But the number of people are like, oh, well, we would never. Oh, how could you do that? How could you have that problem? And I looked at it and I'm like, y'all are assholes. You're all wrong. Every single person is vulnerable. And I'm not excusing it. I'm not saying, well, it's not important that our LMS got hit because everybody else could get hit, right? Like, oh, it's Obama's fault, it's Trump's fault, whatever. The reality is we all have these vulnerabilities. We build systems designed to be bad. And the example I always give to people is, how many of you take annual user awareness training, right? And everybody raises, oh yeah, I do. And I'm like, okay, great. How many of you have a user awareness training that tell you not to click links? And then, oh yeah. Okay, how many of you got into the user awareness training because you got an email with a link that told you had to take your user awareness training? And like, we've built systems to defeat our own controls. And so we teach people not to click links, but tell them they have to click this link. This one's okay. And it's the same thing with, the InfoSec Twitter, if you want to call it that, being a dumpster fire. I will also say, I love InfoSec Twitter.
Oh, I read it almost every day, right? So it's
exactly right.
It goes back and forth.
I get tons of knowledge. I get tons of people I know. We talk about the networking, right? There are those people that cause problems, and I'm sure I'm one of them at some point, right? And there are some problems that need to be caused, right? But yeah, it's a mess. I don't know. I don't know the right answer. I do know that everybody should just follow people other than me. I'm boring and I don't know much. So you'll get Star Wars pictures.
So sweet. So Star Wars pictures, subscribe to Darth Kevin, and then you can get your Star Wars feed for the day or whatever. Right?
Yeah,
hey, that works.
I don't know anything else.
No, I mean, it's a good. So yeah, I guess like your caveat there is perfect, because I do have a problem with the way that we treat each other, but on the other hand, right, the amount of knowledge that I get out of other people on Twitter, and I appreciate that they're posting interesting research, and right, like I remember the days before we actually had that kind of community together, and finding that stuff. I mean, it was frack, right? Like, where else were you going to get an article on, buffer overflows or whatever else? It just didn't exist anywhere else.
Yeah.
And so, like, you just have to take it with a grain of salt, I guess, is all that it is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is don't take it personal, right? And for the people who are posting, and there are many times I have to think of this myself, I'm a hypocrite, right? Remember that you are talking about real people.
Yeah.
I saw this thread yesterday about the companies who are not letting people work from home, and this guy posted, "Well, it's awful. Let's shame and make fun of these companies." And let's be clear, I've been the person that's named and shamed. You can't just assume that person is right. You can't just. Right. You have to understand context. You have to understand what reality is. And I'll give you an example. I posted on Twitter, I don't know, a year ago, 2 years ago, I posted that I had found a back door in LogMeIn, and posted a picture of the back door to the LogMeIn offices in Boston. It was a glass door, and it had the LogMeIn logo on it, and said, please use front entrance, which I believe that means this is a back door.
Back door, yeah.
In other words, a joke.
It was totally a joke, and I can show you the angry messages I got where people, both privately and publicly, like, "How dare you release? You've always been against." I'm like, did you look? Did you like? It was a picture. It was a joke. It was the literal back door to an office. And like the people who would just jump all over me about this, like, "How dare you do this?" And I finally got to the point where I'm like, you know what? At first I was upset. I'll admit it. I was bothered. I was hurt. I was insulted. I was angry. And then I realized, you know what? None of that matters. None of these people yelling at me for releasing a backdoor to log me in, one, got the joke, which means they're ignorant and don't have a sense of humor worth anything, and two, have no impact on my life.
Yeah.
No, none whatsoever.
And walk away. And okay, fine. You know what? You don't agree. You hate me. You dislike me. Look, I hate me some days, most days. And nobody can insult me as much as I insult myself. So yeah. And yes, I'm throwing that out as a challenge. Try. So yeah, it's
no. I made that similar statement like a couple weeks back. Somebody was messing with me, and I was like, "You can't be harder on me than me." So don't even worry about it. Like,
it's all good, right? I got this.
But
I mean, and that also goes back to the whole. At this point, you've been around long enough that you know everything you don't know, and it's so much more than that small aspect that it's like really. Yeah, you probably know something that I don't. That's cool. Well,
there's no probably. They know stuff I don't know. Everybody does, right? I don't know. I love the people who support people. You mentioned Marcus Carey. I admire him amazingly, respect him amazingly. He shares amazing stuff I don't necessarily agree with everything he says or does, but I don't know anybody I agree with everything I don't even agree with everything I say and do.
I've been trying to get him on the podcast, FYI.
Yeah, Marcus, sign up.
Yeah, what's up, man?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, and also like, well, I'm not gonna end this. I'm not gonna end the show out in a negative light, but yeah, like, don't sweat with the Twitters and the InfoSec community yet. Actually, like, what's really neat. Let me since we're getting close to the end of the show, let me share a positive story. So, like, a couple weeks ago, or was it a week? I don't remember. I went on vacation, so I think it was a couple weeks. No, sorry. I know I'm going to be annoying here. Not this last Saturday, but the Saturday before was B-Sides in DC, I believe.
Okay.
And I have a friend who I met through jiu-jitsu community, and he asked me, like, do I know how to get it? Because he signed up for training, and like I think he paid for training or something, but he couldn't get a ticket into. So anyways, like I just put it out on the internet. I asked Rob Fuller actually to, like, if he could retweet it, since did immediately. And then immediately from there, like, tons of legit people in the InfoSec community reached out to him. They ended up getting him a ticket, but like people were so welcoming and so like, how can I help? How can I get you in? Like people, it was so crazy. He was inundated with help. So he actually like made it into the conference, and like that was his first time being able to like network, because he's trying to move from more of like a traditional IT role into security. And I just thought that I would share that, there's all this negative stuff going on, a lot of crazy stuff in the world, but that our community is still, and I said this on Twitter, I'm like, don't let anybody fool you. There's still a lot of good people in this community that are like trying to help each other out and pay it forward. So that's my nice story of the week.
I like it.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Yeah. And I think we all run into that. Those are the people that we try to associate with. I mean, it's the people that were like, that helped us or that we're trying to help. And yeah, I mean, paying it forward is part of being in the community, right? Like,
absolutely.
If you're just trying to take advantage of that, I feel like you get ousted pretty quick, right? I would hope anyway. But,
well, and if you're not, I do believe that it will affect you. Yeah. I do believe, whether it's karma or whatever, I think that the people who help others, I know that I have benefited because I help others, right? It just works that way.
Yeah. It definitely does, right? Yeah, I mean, we're getting close to an hour, Kevin. We want to be conscious of your time. Right?
I appreciate it, because I do have to get onto a class I'm teaching this afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. That's just
it.
You're
not going to be going anywhere. We know that, like physically.
Yeah.
No. So, I'm going to be teaching it right from here.
So before we jump off, is there anything you wanted to like kind of bring up? Anything that's interesting going on with you and or your company, or just like anything in general?
Yeah, I would love to talk about just very quickly. We've got our CISSP mentorship program, which is all online and virtual. It's a 9-week program that we try to make it as affordable as possible. That's actually the class I'm teaching mentoring in this afternoon. I'm doing the last session of the current run. The next run is in June. And we're about to announce, we actually made the decision this morning that we're putting on 2 live classes that will be virtual. Cool. All of this is all wrapped into our affordable training stuff. We try to charge as little as possible for these trainings. If you're a veteran, active duty military, first responder, we have huge discounts on all of this. And if you just can't afford, like to give you an idea, our CISP mentorship program costs $1,000 retail. And you can take it as many times as you want at no additional cost. But if you can't afford that, reach out to me and we'll see what we can do to help you out. Because I'd rather a student learn something than me get a check. Don't get me wrong, I can't do that for every student, because at some point I do have to do payroll. I have these consultants that just demand a paycheck every 2 weeks. It's so unreasonable.
Yeah, no, I know, right? Like, how dare you?
Yeah, but those are the things I'd like to talk, mention out there. And if you want, just reach out to me, or we have a tiny.si/CISSP 2020 is the short link for the one, and the other one's going to be announced soon.
Cool.
Sweet. Well, if you send that to me, I can put it in both our Slack chat room as well as the description of the video.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'll have to get your address because I'm gonna. Well, should I send out swag now with the COVID thing? I don't know. Would that be weird? People would be like, "That's dicey. You just went on a trip."
I'll watch.
Tell you what.
Wait 2 weeks and then send it out.
2 weeks and then send them out. Okay, good, because I can do that. Believe me, I've procrastinated long enough on sending out swag. So
my address is actually on the Security's website. It's the easiest place to grab it. That's the office address.
Perfect.
Awesome. And don't forget to send me a physical address to send the Star Wars trading cards for your kid.
Thanks, man. He'd love Max. Would
I know.
love
I throw that out there.
No, I really appreciate that.
Sweet.
No, thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for
having me. It's been great chatting. I feel like we covered a whole lot and not really, you know what I mean? Like
1%.
Yeah. There were lots of words. I don't know if they were
lots of words came out of mouths today, and it was enjoyable for all involved, at least on the podcast side.
I had fun.
So if people are listening, I mean, at some point in the future, we would love to have you back on. Maybe we can dive into some more training stuff, or something else if there's another topic that's hot for you.
Yeah, we can always
if you're amenable to it.
I'd love to.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be fun to talk Samurai and all that, because we didn't even touch that in this episode, at least.
We actually have a major change coming to Samurai.
Sweet.
It's going to be awesome, but that later.
later. Well, when that's getting closer, let us know, and we'll definitely sit down and talk about it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm super interested as it is.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Cool. Ken, anything else before we close it up for say?
Nope. Just stay safe.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, stay safe, everybody. Find us online. Watch for the stuff coming out of Secure Ideas. We'll post that link, and otherwise, next week, I'm not sure. I don't remember who we have on, Ken.
Oh, I have a handy.
We will be here. You have a handy.
Cat Sweet.
We will be here next week. Oh, sweet. Cat. Yeah, awesome. So that should be fun. Looking forward to having Cat. And find us online, find us on Slack, Twitter, whatever else, and we will see everybody next week. There you go. There's the link, Kevin.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you.